Hi friends, it's Mari here for the Vicki Boutin design team. I've got a mixed media scrapbooking layout for you today. I'm going to be using this beautiful paper from Fernwood. This is the Hello Friends paper. I have fussy cut some of the butterflies out of this paper before starting the video, and you can just see here that I am going to go ahead and just use that portion of the paper for this project today. I am going to use some of the art crayons from the Vicki Boutin mixed media line. I really love the teal color of the one crayon for using that Hello Friends paper. It really was the inspiration for the color scheme that I'm going for today. And I am going to be using some mixed media paper. This is the Vicki Boutin Foundations paper, which is perfect for all different types of mixed media applications that you might want to do for a scrapbooking layout. Now I am using a watercolor brush here just to get some water into that art crayon, and I'm just going to get that pigment all mixed together. I'm using a little bit of one of the lighter kind of teal-y blue colors, the kind of a gray blue as well, in with that teal crayon, just kind of tried to create this really pretty mix of blue colors. Now I added some water to the foundations paper, and now I'm just dropping that pigment into the pooling water on the foundations paper. I'll just go back in and add a little bit more water just to keep the edges of the pigment really nice and soft and flowing. Once that's all dry, I've got it in a diagonal pattern from the top right corner to the bottom left, I've got that pigment all dried now, and I'm ready to add a little bit of texture paste through a Vicki Boutin stencil. So I only wanted to add texture to those areas where I added the art crayon pigment in those two corners, and I just am going to build more color in those areas once this texture paste dries. So I'm just going to apply that in a kind of a random fashion. I've set that aside now, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some embellishments for my project with some vellum. So I'm taking some vellum, I'm adding some anti-static powder to that vellum, and now I'm going to stamp with some of the Color Steady stamps. I love this floral stamp. I think it's so much fun, and this particular stamp has 3 different sizes of this floral. So I'm going to stamp out that and the leaf patterns that are also in that stamp set, and I'm going to heat emboss those with some gold embossing powder. So I've got those all stamped out with some embossing ink. I will get that embossing powder over top of those stamped images, and I will go ahead and heat that up to melt it, and I'll repeat that pattern for the other stamps that I'm using for this project as well. So you can just see I'm taking my heat tool and melting that embossing powder, and that's just going to create these beautiful embellishments. And I'm going to fussy cut those embellishments all out and set those aside to embellish my project here. So there you can see all of the different florals, and you can see the different foliage pieces that I'm going to use as well. This is a really great way to create your own embellishments, and Vicki's collections always have beautiful stamp sets that you can purchase as part of the collection. They're just gorgeous and always so much fun to work with on these different projects. Now I wanted to add a little bit of the iridescent glaze as well. I think I'm getting that wrong. I think this one's actually called Prism Glaze maybe. It's the blue one anyways, and I absolutely love it because it's just got this, almost kind of has a little bit of a gold hue mixed in there as well. It's so beautiful. And what I did was I just put it onto a little bit of packaging over to the side there. I'm picking it up. I actually added a little bit of water to it, and now I'm picking it up with my brush, adding it into that area with the dried texture paste, adding a little bit of water as I go. I just want it to be just sort of in random areas around those circles of that texture paste, and it just adds just a little darker of that teal pigment into those areas where I added the art crayon. So just adding more layers and building up the different color and texture in those different areas just to make it look really interesting. So just had so much fun playing with these products and just working a way to try to create a little bit of an interesting pattern in those 2 areas diagonally on the layout. And my idea for this design is to put my photographs in the center of the page where these 2 diagonal patterns meet in the middle. And so that's what I was going for as far as the design overall with my photographs. photographs, adding the photographs in. So now I'm using some of the black art crayon, and I just wanted to add just some little notes of gray and black into these areas as well. Not too much. You can just see I'm taking a baby wipe and adding or taking away some of the moisture and some of the pigment as I'm working, just adding a few splatters as well as I go. And then I'll take my heat tool and dry these layers as I'm working, and just continuing to layer on top, making sure that subsequent layers are dried before I go in and add the next layer. Drying the back of the paper as well, just so that the integrity of the paper kind of holds up, and I don't want to get too much water on the paper, that's for sure. So I do always have some paper towel handy so that I can dab up any excess moisture that I need to. Just love how this looks, and I also really enjoy adding the splatters along the way as well, just to add that little bit of extra interest. And again, coming in with the heat tool and drying that up. And I love the layers of colors that I have so far. And I will just continue to add a few more splatters and more color as I go to make that as bold as I decide that I want it. Now I wanted to add some more texture as well to the project. So what I did was I cut some rings of white paper just using some circle punches. And now I'm just taking some texture paste and I'm going over top of those circles just to add a lot of texture. Here you can just see how I cut the rings. I cut a small circle and then a larger circle over top just with some circle punches. And this creates those rings. And I'm just going to create a whole bunch of those. Actually, I think I end up adding 5 in total to the project. And then just working on a silicone mat here, just adding that texture paste over top. I'll set those aside to dry, and I just love that extra texture and how this just adds just some really fun detail to the project. I do actually add another circle later, but at this point I just have 4 on there. So here you can see these gorgeous fussy cut florals from that Fernwood paper, and here are my lovely vellum pieces that have the gold on them. They're so pretty, and I just wanted to add those to my little circle cluster areas where I have the pigment on the paper. And now you can just sort of see the design starting to come together. So I'm just going to create these little embellishment clusters where those rings are, and there's so much texture on this layout when I'm finished. It just is so fun. I enjoyed this process so much. It just was so enjoyable working with Vicki's products as always. Just love her collections. They're always so beautiful. So here you can just see I did fussy cut a variety of different butterflies, kind of going for the yellow and the blue hues or the teal hues in the color scheme again. Just a little pop of that yellow here and there with the butterflies. I thought that just went really nicely with the gold. And then of course the teal on the butterflies looks really nice with the color of blues that I have chosen for the mixed media. I just want to take a pencil and curve the edges of the butterfly wings just to make them a little bit more kind of natural looking, I guess, and give them a little bit more dimension in that way, folding them around a pencil and then just adding a little bit of foam adhesive to the back of them to pop them up. Now I took a stamp from my stash. This is a, I'm trying to remember here what stamp this is, and I think I'm going to show you. I don't think it's 49 Market. There you can just see it. It's just this really pretty stamp that I'll try to link up to that in the description box below. I don't know if this is still available, but I will try to find it for you. But I just put a little bit of gold ink on it. This is a gold pigment ink, and I'm just going to add that to the edges of the paper here and there. And I love that this stamp has a little bit of text and it has that butterfly on it, and it's just perfect for what I wanted for the project. And I didn't add any stamping to the actual layout anywhere else, so I just thought that looked interesting on the edges, and it brings the gold into the edges as well. Now I'm just taking my scissor and I'm just tearing away on the left side of the layout just to create a little tearaway section there. And I'm going to use one of the papers from Color Study. I'm going to take a little bit of that teal kind of grid paper and add that to the back of that tearaway section there. And so what I'll do is I'll just, continue to really distress that with my scissors. And I'll just take a little bit of that paper and add some adhesive to the pattern paper at the top and bottom and adhere that to the back of the layout. And I actually take that to my sewing machine later and add some machine stitching to that as well, just to give that extra texture. So here you can just see I'm really working to distress the edges of the foundations paper. The foundations paper is super, super thick. It is just the most amazing mixed media paper to work with. And when you're distressing it like this, you actually really have to use a tool that's quite sharp, because it isn't easy to break that paper down. It's just so thick. So here you can just see I'm ruffling that up. I've put that same paper behind there. I'm taking some stickers from Color Study from the sticker book. And I love these little black sentiment stickers. They just add a nice little pop of black to the edges of my 2 3x2 photos. And I've just matted the 2 photos with some gray cardstock and a little bit of vellum. So just some really simple matting. And I think I do, yeah, I put the photos not one on top of the other, but slightly to the side of each other. I just like that look better. And now I added the title today, and that's a puffy sticker from the Color Study collection. And I love how that looks. I think it's super pretty. Now I am going to go ahead and add some little gold puffy stars. And these are from the Storyteller collection, but I actually still have some in my stash. I absolutely love those. Kind of hoarding them a little bit, but I just thought these tiny little gold stars would just be perfect on this project. And I am going to add some white splatters and some gold splatters to the layout to finish it off. I just thought that would be perfect. And you can just see here, I'm going to cover up the photos. I don't want the actual photos to get splatter on them. And I will add those splatters. To completely finish the layout, I end up using a black mat behind the entire layout. So I size the layout by 1/2 inch, and then I add that black mat to it. And you'll see that in the still shots at the very, very end of the video. So if you stay tuned for that, you can see that at the end. And just going to finish up those splatters. And the splatters I'm using here are the Dina Wakley gloss spray, and I'm being fairly generous with those. I just love the look of those white splatters on there. And I also added some gold splatters as well from using some Heidi Swap Color Shine from my stash. I will link up to as many of the different products in the description box below as I can. And I had so much fun creating this today. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed this process. And if you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you as a subscriber here on my channel. I will also leave links to the Vicki Boutin Facebook group, where you can find all kinds of inspiration using Vicki's gorgeous collection. Have an amazing day, friends. Stay safe, stay well, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.